alone or with friends, online or in split screen. No matter how you choose to play, you will experience endless layers of pen and paper RPG depth. Neatly packaged as the visually exciting, often unpredictable and always dramatic world of Divinity Original Sin 2!
That looked pretty freaking incredible. Holy crap. I have not watched that trailer yet. That was pretty sick.
Yeah, that game has a lot going on. That game, even that trailer only gives you like the hint, the little taste of what's happening in that game. There is so much to it, and it's so much fun to mess around with it.
So yeah, so again, I mentioned like I played maybe an hour or two of the first one. I still have it. I should go back and play it eventually. I've just been more of a a PvP guy when it comes to gaming. If I'm not beating someone or like actively getting better at a game, I feel like I'm wasting my time. So like Skyrim is basically the last single player game that I got through the campaign.
I will tell you right now, don't bother going back and playing the old one.
Okay.
Don't play Divinity 1. Because they had a lot of problems because it was a Kickstarter game. It was their first attempt. It's a great game for the first 30 minutes or first, quarter, and then it kind of gets boring after that. And one of the reasons that you've mentioned to me and I've mentioned to you is that the reason that the second one is so high praised is because of the amount of improvements between the first and second game. The second game is so many leaps and bounds better than the first game that it's just there's no reason to go back. There's no benefit to it.
Okay. So the second one essentially is replacing the first one and not even like a sequel. It's just like just play this instead.
Yeah, the first one, I mean, the second one says that it's like it could be anywhere between 700 and 1,000 years after the first one. So, like, there's not a lot of, like, there's no, like, oh, I had to get that because of the first game. Like, there's none of that. Like, everything in the second game is its own thing, and that's fantastic.
So I didn't even know it had PvP. Like, as soon as they said that, I was like, that's interesting. Have you dabbled in that?
Arena PvP, I have not dabbled in it. I'm not that good at D&D, so I don't think I'd be that good at that. But maybe I'm great at it, and I just don't know yet. But I think I just want to complete the game before I go messing around with that. I know that I want to build a module for my friends to play through. We've talked about that, and that would be super fun because the game has this monstrous module editor where you can make your own D&D game for your friends. The other thing is that, like, so you can play the game single player, and you can play through, and it's got 8 unique characters with their own story. You build a party of 4, or you can make your own original character and play with other people, or make your own original friends to play with you, although you miss out on the origin stories. So you have ostensibly 8 already dedicated unique storylines plus your own character crafted storyline. So that's 9 different stories to play through the game, each with a variety of ways to play the story and end up with completely different endings. Then you can play online multiplayer with 3 of your friends, and you can all play as origin characters with pre-set stories, or you can play created new characters and make your own story. That is, when you think about it in the context of content, that is fucking enormous. That's so much game.
That's true. Yeah. I mean, I basically asked last night when you mentioned the game. You mentioned you can't wait for someone to try to speed run it, and I was like, well, how many hours? How many hours is the actual game? What did you tell me?
It was between 70 and 80 or 80 and 90.
You said 80 and 90 hours, and I was
80
like,
and 90, yeah.
is that now? When you say that, and you now tell me that there's 50 million different ways to play, is that 80, 90 hours per story, or you're bundling them?
That's like 80 to 90 hours for me and my party to make it through the game once. That means that, like, best case scenario, I can get 3 endings for supporting characters and 1 ending for myself.
Okay.
And that means that, like, on the next playthrough, I can play with the other 4 characters, or I could play with those same characters and change the way their stories work, or I can mix it up and match it and do whatever I want. I mean, that's the beauty of it, is that it's just bonkers. So, plus, there's romance options. You can sleep with a skeleton.
Yeah.
you can literally hook up with a skeleton if that's your thing. If you're into getting boned.
Not my personal favorite, but there's at least the option, right? I'm happy to have variety. So when you said you play through as an already written backstory, and you've got the 3 friends who are also the pre-written. And you said you can see all 4 of their endings if you play 1 through. So is there no need to go back and play as those characters if you do that? Or are you seeing everyone's full story? I guess is what I'm asking. Are you seeing everyone's full story if they're a companion?
You're seeing one path of it, because everyone has multiple endings.
Gotcha.
So each character has multiple endings. So even if you played through with your friends, the ending that you get with them does not necessarily make the ending that you'll get playing solo.
Okay.
And that just means that like there's so many choices and discussions in the game about how people are and what changes their personalities that you can just two people will never have the same playthrough unless one person copies the other person one for one.
Interesting. So I saw like dialogue options and stuff. There's always like 3 or 4 options that affect, charisma and all, relationships and stuff like that down the road.
I love that shit. If you give me a system where it's like your charisma gives you a different chat option or your strength, like that's the throwback to Fallout New Vegas, the perfect one, that I love so much. It's and more so Fallout 1 and 2 because it's an isometric RPG that I will also love. But I love stuff like that. I love stat-driven choices that aren't combat related because that allows you to really role play the character and it allows you to experience different things and it makes it a little bit more like reality, I guess. A suave savvy dude will have a different way of talking and have a different result from talking to someone than some big dumb man with muscles. But at the same time, I'm not afraid of a suave guy,
right?
Yeah.
So yeah, exactly. It's like the charm, the golden tongue is not always going to get you out of a altercation with like an ogre or something like. So it makes sense that different strengths have different outcomes with all these different scenarios. I'm actually just watching that trailer is actually pretty sweet. Like I saw some cool monsters and explosions, and of course the stuff you're talking about with just choose your own adventure to the T basically is pretty sweet. What would you say, or do you have any other older games that you would compare this to? You just said Fallout New Vegas, but that was more of just like the dialogue sort of options. What about actual gameplay?
Yeah, I would say, it's close to Fallout 2, if you played that, if you're an old head like me. It's close to any like old school isometric RPG. Shadowrun, the original ones.
Well, Diablo, literally Diablo is the only thing I have a reference point for, and it the screen I've got it frozen on right here looks a little Diablo 3-ish, but
Diablo 3 is a lot faster though. This is methodical. I don't want to say slow. It's not slow.
Strategic.
It's methodical and strategic.
Yeah.
Champions of Norath, which was a great game. Neverwinter Nights, which is another fantastic game.
Okay.
Stuff like that, where it's like battle starts and all my characters are like, oh, battle, and so, or at least the ones that are actively visible to my opponent, because I can set my characters to sneak. Even during the course of a battle, I can stop looking at the battle and sneak my stealth characters around behind and actually gain stealth attacks, just like in a D&D game or something like that. So it's a lot more about seeing the field of battle and assessing it for what it is and seeing where your best course of combat will be. And a lot of people, one of the criticisms I heard is that like people get so much armor and magic armor that like you can't use your favorite ability, and I think that's not necessarily true. I think that what you need to look at is ways to make your favorite ability as powerful as it can be. That's I think a better way to look at it, because people are like, oh well, he's so tanky that I can't just one shot him. And it's like, yeah, of course you can't one shot. Like you shouldn't just be able to one shot people. You shouldn't be able to one shot
you, right? If he can't one shot you shouldn't be able to one shot him.
Yeah, well, there's some bosses that have given me that track, but like I do think that it's like one of those things where it's like people are just looking for a simple answer, and there's no simple answers in this game. The answer is that you need to, if you want to win, you need to play smart, and if you want to, fuck around, then fuck around, but don't get mad. Don't get mad when the game shits on you.
Okay, all right, interesting. And that is actually something I heard about the first game, is that I had a buddy who loved it, but when I told him, I was having some struggles just getting into it, he basically was like, yeah, you kind of have to play it a certain way, because in the first one, I guess, the similar problems where it's like, unless you have a mage, a healer, a fighter, whatever, like the perfect comp, then it just gets super frustrating, and like you end up at a point where you can't return from. But I guess, I don't know, you're making a face like maybe that's not the case for you.
No, that was the first one. Okay. And this one just has a lot more variety of options, so that you never feel like it's like there's not every class, but multiple classes have healing options in different varieties of ways to heal. So you don't necessarily have to have one guy who's like all in on Hydra Fist, even though Hydra Fist has the strongest heal options. If you're a Necromancer, you can use Rain of Blood, and then if all of your players have Leech Life, or if you use one of the other abilities, then you just heal while standing in the blood. So you don't have to actually worry about that.
Yeah.
Right. So people get confused about like, oh, well, you have to have a Hydra Fist, you have to heal, and it's like, well, I don't have to have a Hydra Fist. I have a Geomancer who heals on dirt, and I have a Necromancer who heals covered in blood, and I have another guy, and so like it's really like understanding that you can't play with 4 fighters is not the same as knowing that you need someone with a healing skill or multiple. And they have scrolls in the game that you can craft. So if you go all in on crafting, everybody can have heal scrolls. It's just a matter of using them on your turn. Like I find that sort of like dumb. Oh, you have to have a healer. That thought just bogs me down, because it's like you have options.
Yeah,
you got 100 options. If your argument is I never want to make a healing item and I never want to use a healing spell, then you're just being an ass.
Yeah, it's not the right game. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'll ask, I guess, about combat. Since you said, when a battle starts, everyone just kind of like becomes aware. You can sneak people around and stuff like that. Does that mean that it's turn-based? Is it priority like the actual Dungeons and Dragons, where you can see the turn list somewhere?
Yeah, combat is turn-based. You can see the queue, and the queue is based upon, is it called initiative? I think.
Yeah.
The stat, and there's a stat for that dictates the order of turns, and there's abilities like haste that speed up your turn, or you can be slowed down or petrified or things like that. And so,
but you have time. You have time to plan ahead, though. Like
you can, the match doesn't start until the first move of yours. Like on your turn, you have no time limit, so you can stop, zoom out, look around the battlefield, take a stock of what you got. There are some fights that start where you don't get the first turn, and you need to be aware of those fights. Like they're generally like scripted boss fights and things like that. And then there's fights that you can fight by dragging one enemy out of the group. Like enemies aren't chained together in a way that like it's like, oh well,
not like a random encounter in Final Fantasy where it's like just 5 dudes. Yeah.
These are people walking around, and so if you want an easier fight, you can pull someone out of the fight and kill them solo before engaging in the major fight, or something of that nature. There is a boss, not a boss, there's an enemy in this game, and I don't think I'll spoil anything by telling you. It is a bunch of wolves stitched together into a giant werewolf abomination.
That's rad.
And if you fight it on the ground level that it's on, good fucking luck.
Yeah.
Because as soon as you start the fight, it summons spirit wolves all around you, and you're surrounded. But if you sneak up on the ledge, and the first thing you do is sneak attack with a bow and arrow, then he only summons 2 or 3 wolves. He doesn't summon the ones behind you until one of you goes down the ladder or moves down. So you can actually fight him at a numbers advantage, by keeping your guys up on an elevated surface.
Positioning matters, timing matters, of course.
Positioning is the most important thing in the game so far.
Okay.
I think because it's the one thing that like separates like people who just have to like brute force a fight versus people who are really like examining the area and seeing where it is. Because I lost a fight. I lost the first boss fight, the major one, against Alexander, 4 or 5 times. But once I'd fully understood the positioning of the map and how different units work around that area, I cleared it without losing a single guy. It was easy.
Nice.
I just had to get in the mindset of like, what am I actually fighting against, and how do they use the terrain and the movement to their advantage, and how can I stop that?
That sounds awesome, man. I'm like totally sold on this already. Final Fantasy Tactics is a game that pops into my head as far as like that's starting a battle, getting your ass kicked multiple times, and then eventually figuring out the positioning and the correct roles and all that. But are you able to change roles and things on the fly? Like what if a battle starts and you find yourself ill-equipped to deal with it? What is your recourse? Are you able to like switch talents and skills and stuff on the fly, or no?
Well, first off, I love Final Fantasy Tactics, and I've beaten it like 8 times.
It's the Final Fantasy I've beaten the most. At
It's
least
the
3.
best Final Fantasy game.
Yeah.
Period. I don't have to defend it.
I need to get Tactics Advance eventually too. Reminder.
You should play War of the Lions if you can, because
I'll
that was the
find it.
remake and it's so good. Yeah. So as far as like classes, there's no dedicated class. You can roll starting as a knight, and then by the end of the first act, you're like, I'm a necromancer or whatever.
Okay.
It's just about putting the stats. The stats that you put into it are the stats that pay off for the skills you use.
Sure.
So if I have
Intelligence
a
for a
character,
wizard, blah blah blah.
right, so I had a character. I have a character who started off as a rogue, and she's a great rogue, and she kills people really well. And then a story event gave her a special ability to grow wings, and it said, "Okay, but you need polymorph 2 to use it." And I was like, "Oh shit! Well, I want to use.
Worth?
I want to fly." Yeah. So I started putting points into polymorph, and then I was like, "Well, I'm going to buy some of these polymorph skill books because they're really good."
Yeah.
So now I have this flying polymorph rogue. Who's great because she can fly. So she has, as a rogue, she's already getting a ton of movement bonuses and backstab bonuses, right? And when you fly, you ignore opportunity attacks and a bunch of other things. So I don't need opportunist as a skill because she flies and ignores it.
Okay.
So I've bypassed.
So she's evolved. Yeah.
Right. So I've bypassed the opportunist attack problem where you can get attacked moving by enemies by flying. Now, with my polymorph skill, which is all modified by strength and finesse, I can also get other skills, like I can turn her arm into a tentacle that atrophies people, and that means they can't use auto attacks in their next, or whatever you want to call it, basic melee attacks. Or I can give her chicken claw, where she hits a person and it turns them into a chicken.
Neat.
It polymorphs them into a chicken, and then they lose control of their character. And it's a very strong skill, but you have to wear down their armor first. But because she's a rogue, she gets to destroy or bypass armor almost instantly.
That's
so
rad.
you create this. Yeah, the more you play it, the more you understand how it's like, oh fuck, man, what if my paladin was also a necromancer? and then I turn all the enemies into zombies, and then I hit them with a heal beam, and then they all die. And you can do that, and that's like. That's probably the best feeling. That's up there with like getting married and stuff. It's like I just killed 6 dudes by turning them into zombies, and then I healed them to death.
It's turn undead and then turn undead, right?
it's I believe it's called turn undead into Phoenix Down,
Gotcha.
the classic Final Fantasy maneuver.
Yeah, it just sounds funny because it's like you're actually turning them into zombies first, and then you're using turn undead, which is the classic like Crusader cleric thing. Like,
here's the thing though, is that they actually will do the same thing to you.
Oh, okay.
The higher the AI, the more likely the AI is to use like really
Sneaky
good
stuff.
tactics.
Yeah.
Oh, they're smart. They're really smart. They will hit you with stuff that you're like, oh shit, I should have been doing that.
Totally. Well, that's good. I mean, that's good though, because that opens the door creatively for like you didn't even know this was possible, and the first time you see it, you say, "Me, that's what I want to do."
Yeah.
So it sounds like in my head, kind of a combination of, I mean, Diablo just because there's lightning and monsters and stuff, but also Final Fantasy Tactics, as well as I'm curious about like I guess for your flying rogue polymorpher, you said you don't need the opportunist stat or whatever you said. Basically, are you able to undo things that you previously sunk points into? Is it like Diablo 2 where you're stuck with it, or Diablo 3 where you can move things around?
No, to my knowledge, once you've purchased a talent, it's there permanently.
Okay.
But there are special items that you can find, uniques or rares that have additional talents on them. So there's different things, and the game has the achievement system on Steam, and if you want to play for achievements, great. You can download mods that disable. When you download a mod, it disables all the achievements, but you can download some mods that allow you to undo stuff like that.
Okay.
You can download some mods that give you one of the most popular skills we talked about last night is Pet Pal. It allows you to talk to animals, and talking to animals is the best thing in the game.
Seems beneficial.
You can talk to every animal, and every animal is amazing. It's fully voice acted. It's got weird personalities. One of my favorite quests, I want to tell you, one of my favorite quests in the game, I helped a turtle talk to a rat that she was in love with.
Aww.
But she was too slow to catch up to him, so I had to slow the rat down so that she could talk to him, and then they fall in love. I didn't even get anything for it. I didn't give a shit. I felt so good after doing it.
You got this great story
like,
about how you helped this turtle.
I mean, everybody, it feels good. It feels good to do good things in that game because the game has characters, and characters make you give a shit about your side stories. Whereas if the quest is pick up 5 antlers
Sure.
in WoW. You're like, yeah, here's your 5 antlers. I'm never gonna see
Bye.
you again.
Yeah.
Bye, asshole.
Where's my gold? Where's my bag? Yeah.
Right, but in Divinity, I found a dog who was being mistreated by his homeless owner, and I fucked that dude up and freed the dog. And then the dog comes back later and talks to me, and he's like, "Oh man, life's so good now." And you're like, "Jesus Christ, man, I'm like a philanthropist. I feel amazing."
The
in this
dog's
game.
like, I got a wife and a job now, man. I owe everything to you.
The dog is like, "Woof, I'm a dog. Everything's great. I love you." And it's like, "Oh man, I like dogs too."
Glad I killed that guy for you, dog.
I don't mind killing a homeless person if he tortures a dog. It's a personal feeling there.
Yeah, I get you. All right. Well, I mean, this game, it looks pretty sick. I've just been kind of replaying some of these clips again, and the world looks very visually impressive. I see like a lot of tactics, like jumping over fences, blowing up walls, like sneaking around, as you said. There's some crazy looking environments with tornadoes and fire, and like you said, like there's like love life you can explore. And I'm assuming, are you able to take like jobs? Is it? I remember Fable had kind of an interesting system as far as like your decisions allowing you to become like mayor of a town and like all kinds of weird stuff like that. Is it?
You don't have jobs.
Like a home base or anything? Or is it
you have. So you saw that ship that they were on, the big ship with the dragon head.
Okay.
So the ship is your home base, sort of, after a certain point, and the ship is great because you can talk to the ship, and the ship talks back to you. And
of course, everything talks.
The ship is a lovely lady, and it deserves respect.
Just like the ship in Futurama. Yeah.
Exactly,
Okay.
but less. But the ship is great, and so like you can do a lot of stuff there. You can go back there and talk to NPCs you've saved the lives of, if you did the right choices.
Sure.
You can there's a bunch of different stuff you can do, but you don't ever like there it is. There's the beautiful ship. You don't ever have like a job. Your job is to A, stay alive, B, kill bad people, or C, rob good people for the purpose of making a lot of money. And so that becomes sort of your modus operandi, is how you wanna approach that. But as far as like, I need to craft, like there's none of that. Like you can craft, but the game intentionally doesn't have like amazing crafting for weapons and armor, because you already have a fuck ton of weapons and armor. It's
Okay.
like, yo, we're gonna give you all the weapons and armor you could ever want.
That's not the point of the
Crafting-
game, right? It's
Right.
the strategy. Yeah.
A lot of crafting is around food, which is incredibly powerful, but hard
Stat
to make.
buffs.
Yeah, it's hard to make high level recipes. Then there's crafting scrolls and runes, which is like the highest level combat stuff, and that's really like rare materials. And then like below that is like crafting tools that you can use in combat, like elemental arrowheads, which are really good, or what else is there? Just random stuff. You can craft a lot of tools that you use to craft other tools. So that's the craft. You just saw the crafting scenes right there.
Mm-hmm.
You can like say you have a water pot and you're next to a bonfire. You can go up to the bonfire and say combine with, and you can throw your water pot on there, and you can actually create a cooking station. And from the cooking station, you can cook more advanced food.
Nice.
And so knowing how like you can even affect structures in the world to then affect your crafting. You can take a beehive and make a beehive farm to help make honey. Like that sort of complexity really comes through later in the game when you're like, how the fuck do I make this? I had one of them, but now I have none and I need more.
I was gonna say, is it like once you get to that point though, are you screwed, or do you just start cooking like crazy and you can eventually catch up?
I guess it depends on your personality, right?
Yeah.
Like you're like either, well, you pick up books. If you're not reading books in this game, you have done it wrong.
Okay.
Read every book you come by. Like that is super important to
Is that
read
just
all the books.
EXP and talents and recipes and
All
sorts?
recipes, nothing
Gotcha.
else.
Oh, okay.
No experience. Quests. You get quest information.
Gotcha.
And you can get clues about quests, but there's never like I read every book, so I got an achievement. Like there's none of that. Like from Skyrim, which I didn't
Right.
really care for. It's more like these are useful books for learning about information, or they're hilarious.
Okay.
Like you read a book and it's like all the books have like a narrator, and so you open
Okay.
the book and it's like you open the book and find a series of crudely drawn dragons, and it's just like that doesn't help you, but it's
Nice.
funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, sick.
Keep it
Or
nice.
or you read a note. It's like, oh, it's from the guy I just killed. Apparently, he was writing home to his kid. Whoopsie.
Darn it. That's shucks, right?
Yeah, but if you don't read, you'll never have the recipes. But reading is funny and good, and also that's how you get the recipes, and that's how you make the good stuff.
And you're the
I think
chef,
that
so you're all about
yeah.
that. Yep.
Oh, I love a good cooking. I like good foods crafting. I hate bad food crafting. I think that's kind of like simple to say, but
Sure.
like when you look at like all the video games who have like food crafting,
Yeah.
most people couldn't tell you the difference between a good crafting system for food in a game and a bad one, and I'm explicitly know exactly what a bad one looks like. Looking at you, Legend of Zelda, Breath of the Wild.
The only cooking systems I can even think of right now are World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy 15.
I'm not a fan of Final Fantasy 15's. World of Warcraft is a little bit better. It's really boring,
Yeah.
and it's predicated on like purchasing fish,
That's also true.
which is like whatever. But like the best ones are, man, Star Ocean has some good food crafting.
Oh, Star Ocean, yeah. Wow, that's a callback. Holy crap, I haven't thought about that game in eons.
Star Ocean 1 and 2 had great crafting systems. Suikoden has some great crafting systems for food.
Love that.
You can recruit chefs, which I love. I think that should be in every game. Cooking Mama, I love it. All the level 5 games tend to have really good crafting.
Yeah.
If you look at like Dark Cloud 2, Rogue Galaxy, those have really great crafting
Rogue Galaxy,
systems.
I've got that one as well.
Rogue Galaxy is the perfect PlayStation 2 game.
Man, I've got a PS2 here somewhere. I could probably set up a stream or something.
So yeah, I take a lot of pride in the job that I've done for so long, and so when video game companies put a lot of work into it, I really appreciate it, and I also really like to. And you know who's got some great food crafting coming out, and this is a sponsored treat. Battle Chef Brigade is what it's called.
That's what it is. Battle Chef Brigade.
But
Adult Swim games.
Battle Chef Brigade, Adult Swim games. I should have a video coming out for them soon. Super hype. WildStar had good crafting. Thank you. That was a good one. But yeah, Battle Chef Brigade. If you are a foodie or a side-scrolling fan or both, like me, definitely check that one out.
Nice. All right. Well, we got there. We got our tangent in there about games with cooking aspects. I like it. Yeah, I've just been playing Final Fantasy 15. I'm in about a dozen hours in, so I haven't gotten the full extent of the system yet. But so far, it's just you find some shit on the ground, and eventually you can make shit out of it.
Just my recommendation to you for Final Fantasy crafting is don't do any of it.
Don't bother. Yeah.
You don't. It doesn't do you any good.
Gotcha. Just extra health. I like extra health because I'm a bit wild.
Right, you can buy the best food for your level.
True.
But the crafting takes so long, and it counts as separate experience because it's a different class, quote unquote.
Right.
That it just slows you down, and it'll take you forever.
I haven't really been messing with it at all. Like the cooking aspect, like the actually camping is not even interesting to me because it slows the game down exactly like you said.
15. I was thinking of 14, but yeah, same thing, same difference. Craft your cup noodles, move on.
Yeah.
Final Fantasy 14 has terrible food.
Okay. 14 15, I have not played.
15 is just Ignis going, I've got a new recipe.
Exactly, yeah.
Like, okay.
You're just killing monsters, and he's like, I want to cook right now. And it's like, not now, dude. There's more monsters.
Come on. And no chef would be like that. They were not
Eureka!
Like, I gotta cook right now. I got a new recipe. We're gonna take that guy we just killed and make him into a pizza.
I was just gonna say, like, we just found this crazy ass lizard monster. I'm gonna cut off his tail and cook something delicious. It's like that's probably poisonous, dude. I don't know if we want to eat that.
Ignis is problematic as a chef because he doesn't go through any of the processes of like testing or checking food for quality or like especially like when you think about like foodborne illness and which I do sometimes or like the conditions of the food, it's like he's just like cutting a warm lizard open and cooking it. That's interesting and bad.
All right, well, let's see. I guess Divinity Original Sin 2, I just wanted to go over the reviews that it got, because these are actually insanely good for a super nerdy, like, mega RPG game. They got 9 out of 10 on Steam, 4.7 out of 5 on GOG.com, and 94% on Metacritic. 94% for a video game at all is kind of crazy. Like, I think Civ and, like, Sims are kind of the only ones that get in that range. So that's very impressive stuff from Larian Studios.
Yeah, I think that Polygon gave it a 9.75. Waypoint loved it. I think Kotaku gave it a very high recommendation. I think the game is just phenomenal. Divinity 2 is literally like, man, if you ever play a game and then go, oh, this is cool, and then you think about yourself in the game and how you would want to approach the situation and make it like your own, that's what Divinity 2 allows you to do. It allows you to enter the headspace of creativity and go, how would I approach the situation with my character whose personality I've crafted and who's, the thing that I want to look like I want it to look. And that's a really cool space to exist in.
Yeah. Skyrim, like I said, I think that was the last single player multiplayer game that I really dove into, and that was 2011 or early 2012, right? So it's been a while for me, but this looks like something I can totally stream and have a lot of fun making different decisions and like goofy things every once in a while is nice. It sounds like it's got some humor, some action, some obviously tons of fantasy aspect to it. You talked about like the turning them all undead and then slaying them with Phoenix Downs or holy magic, stuff like that. I've only played actual D&D, like maybe 2 or 3 one-shots, never like a campaign. And I was always just like a fighter because I didn't know what the hell I was doing, right? So I was just like, give me a big axe, let me go in there and chop stuff up. But this seems like an easier space for someone to just go nuts with like crazy magic and stealth skills and all kinds of stuff. So it looks really, really appealing to me. And I see that Galagai and Villavis earlier both in the chat saying that they love the game, they're very interested in it, and I haven't found someone yet that I've talked to that's played it and been like, nah, it's a stinker, or I got bored, or whatever. So it just seems like an amazing game. It's on Steam right now for $45. I think, from what I've heard, it seems worth.
You would be hard pressed to find a AAA game with as much content of such a high quality in it consistently through the whole game. You couldn't. I doubt anyone could. Honestly, it's a Herculean effort that they put together such a great piece, or Herculean. I always forget how that's pronounced.
Herculean, either one.
Yeah, sure, all of those. Greek.
It's a proper noun, so you can take liberties with it. Okay, well, I guess is there anything else that we didn't touch on yet about the game that you think people should know about?
You find a cat in the first act, keep the cat alive for the whole first act. You find a chicken in the second act, fuck that chicken, you can kill it.
Okay, so protect the cat, fuck the chicken. Easy.
That is my pro tip, and it's got a little crazy man picture next to it that says 5.0.
Gotcha. All right, well, we will nip that one in the bud there. Divinity Original Sin 2. It sounds like an awesome game. I actually am very interested in it, so I hope that I get a chance to play it soon. Pretty busy coming in the next month, but I think that it is something that I definitely want to try out. So thank you very much for suggesting it as a topic of discussion, because I'm pretty much blown away by it, actually. It looks really, really cool. So that'll be the end of the segment here, and basically the end of the show. We're trying to run around an hour to